Hi everyone, my name is Robin Brown from Waste is My Resource. Today I'm going to show you how to get started growing a veggie garden. So this is for those beginners that haven't got a clue what to do. I've got in front of me a 4-plot garden bed, which I talk about in my slide set about crop rotation. It's not terribly important when you first start, but it's a good practice to get into because most of the plants can be grouped into 4 rough groups, and the idea is that each season we rotate the type of plants from group 1 to group 2 and group 2 to group 3 and so forth, because each of these plants have a different nutrient need, and the idea of moving them means that they will be able to take up the nutrients that they need. Now, if you haven't got a nice large plot like I have here, you might have a tiny spot, you might have a balcony, or you might have a patio area, or just a tiny backyard courtyard area. As long as your plants can get a minimum of 5 hours sunlight a day, you can still grow veggies, and you can grow them in one of these bags that we've got down here to show you. So if you haven't got a large plot of land like I have here, and by the way, this is only about 3 metres by 3 metres, so it's not a huge piece of land, but if you haven't got that, you can always grow your vegetables in containers. So as long as you've got a minimum of 5 hours of sunlight, something like these grow bags which fold up when you're not using them, can go away in a garden shed somewhere, are absolutely ideal, and they're great in winter because they're black. And black attracts and absorbs heat, so it keeps your plants warm. Not so good in summer, so be aware of that. If you're going to have a summer garden in containers, get anything else that's not black. That's just tip 1. We are going to treat the process in the container exactly the same as I would on the soil. So the next stage is to look at the type of soil that you have and how to prepare it. So now we need to look at what type of soil you have, whether you have got sand, loam or clay. Loam is our ideal one, and that's why I've got that in the middle, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Most people in the city area have got sand. It might be a different colour. If you're near the coast, it's sort of a whitey yellow clay. Inland, we get Bassendean and Leederville sands, and they're very fine. They go through your fingers really easily, and very hard to hold water. So their water holding capacity is very poor, and that's why we need to improve it with organic matter, and also we can add a clay. So up the other end of the tray here is a clay that actually occurs on my property. It's out near a dam. Now, clay is a very, very fine structure. If you put it into a glass of water, it turns all milky. But its property, which is the worst thing to have in a garden situation, is that it packs together, and it packs down rock hard. And that's not ideal in a garden. What we actually have to do is get a combination of both, and that's what loam is. So it's sand, it's organic matter, and it's clay. You can actually, if you've got access to clay, you could go to all the trouble of drying this and crushing it and adding powder back into your sand. Or you can actually go to a hardware shop and buy some clay products called soil solver and something similar to that, and you sprinkle that powder into your sand, and what happens is that that's a permanent addition. You never have to add that again, but it's adding a water holder capacity to your soil, plus your own compost. And I've actually got another video that I show people how to add that clay soil, or that soil solver, to their sand. And you might like to look at that, but that just identifies the types of soils, and that's really important before you start. So now the real fun part begins. Now it's time to actually start planting, and I'm going to start with my group 1 plants, which are the legumes. And at this time of the year, it's coming into winter, it's time to plant peas, all varieties of peas. One of the easiest ways of setting up a structure for peas as they're climbing varieties is to buy some of this mesh. It's very soft, it's a tree mesh guard, and that comes in a roll, and you can unroll a section. I'm a bit lazy there. Just for today, I've just unrolled one part, and I'm going to put that up because I don't have any need for tree guards right now. But you do have to make sure that it's quite secure and that the wind's not going to get it. And we're going to plant the peas all the way around. So, having done that, put the second one in. And then I'm going to get my pea seeds out, and I am going to plant them into the soil. Now you can plant pea seeds direct into the soil, or you can plant them first into little containers and put them out to fasten the speed up. If you wanted to get your peas out ready in the first autumn rain, so ready for April, you could actually plant your seeds in a container around about February or March. So now we're ready to plant, and you can choose between a seedling or seeds for planting peas. I like to grow my own peas early, and I grow them in toilet rolls, and you can see from here how strong the root forms are. They're also very strong in the cell walls because I grow them slowly, unlike some of the commercial seedlings where they pour liquid fertiliser onto them, and they're quite weak. They look strong, but that's what attracts all the slugs because their cell structure is very weak. So this works perfectly. But what you have to do if you're planting seedlings as opposed to seeds is you've got to prepare your hole first. So I'm going to dig my hole, and in the bottom of my hole I'm going to, which is nice and moist because I've had my wetter soil on it and I've put water in there as well, I'm going to put a little ball of worm castings. So those roots are going to go straight into the worm castings, or if you haven't got worm castings, compost. So I've got some lovely black crumbly worm castings from my worm farm, which are going to go down the bottom, and I also put a little bit of compost in as well. Now they're full of microbes which every plant needs, and I'm going to put that down into the hole. Doesn't matter how far you bury that because that cardboard is disintegrating as we go. And just pack down so there's no air around your little seedling, as close to the trellis as you can. Now the beauty of having seeds as well is that you could put your hand through the trellis and put some seeds inside as well. So I'm going to do that as I go. I've got a packet of lovely snow peas here as well. Now the general rule of thumb with a seed is that you plant it as deep as the seed is, or even a little bit deeper than that. So I'm going to get my glove back on, and I'm going to poke a little hole about 4 millimeters deep, just inside the well mesh, and cover that up.